Welcome to Galactic Tales YT, where the world of science fiction comes to life through powerful stories, emotional journeys, and breathtaking adventures across the stars. He pulled an alien girl from the Quicksand and into a war he didn't see coming. HFY story. A quiet planet, at the edge of known space, floated Erebos 9, a blue-green world wrapped in mist and calm winds. Farmers rose with the twin suns. Children raced along metal walkways over the silver rivers. Nothing bad ever happened here. At least, that's what people said. High above the planet, an aging satellite blinked in rhythm, sending weather data back to the colony's control tower. But tonight the satellite blinked once, then stopped. Something had cut its signal. Down in the control tower, Captain Aiden Cross frowned at his screen. Strange. Satellite 4 just went offline. Lieutenant Mara Lee laughed softly. Probably dust interference again. Relax, Captain. We're too far from trouble. Aiden didn't relax. He leaned closer to the radar and saw new dots appearing from deep space, one after another, forming a perfect line. They're moving fast, he whispered. And they're not ours. The sky turns black within minutes. Every alarm in the outpost screamed. 12 massive shadows slid across the stars. Warships, black as obsidian, shaped like knives aimed at the planet. Their engines burned violet, leaving trails of fire. Unidentified fleet approaching, yelled the radar officer. Aiden's heart pounded. Patch me to planetary defense, Static answered. Then a voice. Command center. Systems failing. They jammed everything. The line died. Mara's hand shook over the controls. Who would attack a mining colony? The kind who think we're easy prey, Aiden said grimly. Outside, streaks of light began raining from the upper atmosphere. Each one struck like a meteor, exploding in white-hot flashes. The first city went dark in seconds. First contact, first blood transmission broke through the jamming, crackling, deep and full of static. This world is now property of the Zelthar Dominion. Surrender and live as slaves. Resist and burn. The screen showed a monstrous alien face. Skin like cracked stone, eyes glowing red, teeth metallic. Then the image vanished, replaced by falling fire. They're serious, Mara breathed. Aiden slammed a fist on the console. Then so are we. Activate local defense grid. Gun turrets rose from the colony walls, spitting streams of plasma at the descending craft. For a moment the sky lit with color, blue human fire against red alien beams. The night became day, but the Zelthar was stronger. Their weapons sliced through steel like paper. Whole streets vanished in blinding blasts. The last transmission. The communications array still flickered weakly. We can send one short message, said the tech officer. Do it, Aiden ordered. He leaned into the mic. To any human ship in range. Erebos 9 under attack. Unknown enemy. Multiple casualties. We will fight. Before he could finish, an explosion shook the building. The roof tore open. Through the smoke, giant armored figures dropped from the sky. The first Zelthar landed with a crash, towering 2 meters tall, armor fused into their bodies. One raised a blade that hummed with red light. Aiden drew his pulse rifle. Welcome to Erebos, he muttered, and fired. The alien screamed as the shot tore through its chest. More dropped in behind it. The control room turned into a storm of plasma and smoke. Fire and courage Mara dragged a wounded soldier toward cover. We can't hold them. Then we'll make them pay, Aiden replied, switching to manual defense. He triggered the floor mines. The blast ripped through the invaders, flinging shards of metal and alien limbs across the hall. For a moment the attack paused. Aiden looked around at his battered crew. You all wanted adventure, he said with a shaky grin. Wish granted. They laughed once, short and bitter, then reloaded. Outside, flames climbed the sky. Civilians ran through streets of glass and dust. Yet even in panic, some stopped to help the fallen. That was humanity, scared, bleeding, but never abandoning each other. Hope in the smoke far from the city. An automated mining shuttle sat unused. Mara spotted it through a broken window. If we can launch that, we can send the distress beacon into deep space. Too risky, Aiden said. So is dying here. He hesitated, then nodded. Go! I'll cover you. Mara sprinted across the burning courtyard, dodging plasma bursts. She reached the shuttle, slammed the beacon into its console, and hit launch. The small craft roared upward, engines screaming. From orbit, the alien flagship locked onto it immediately. "Target escaping," hissed the Zelthar commander. "Destroy it!" A beam of red light speared the sky. The shuttle vanished in a flash, but the beacon had already transmitted. Somewhere out there, faint and broken, a human signal echoed into the void. The moment before revenge hours later, the colony lay in ruins. The air shimmered with heat and grief. Captain Aiden stood on the shattered wall, rifle hanging at his side, eyes fixed on the stars. Mara limped up beside him. "They think we're finished," she said quietly. He nodded. "Then they don't know what happens when humans get angry." Above them, the alien fleet turned away, believing their job done. They didn't notice the faint pulse of light that still drifted across the galaxy, a message carrying one line of data: human colony attacked. Send everything. And somewhere, far beyond the stars, deep within the fleet yards of Earth, warning lights began to flash red. When the fleet arrives, the signal that shook Earth far away from Erebos 9 on the cold side of Earth's moon, the orbital command station floated in silence. Thousands of screens glowed blue in the darkness. Officers yawned, sipping coffee, expecting another quiet shift. Then a red alert icon blinked into life. "Admiral, we're picking up a long-range signal, distress code 43479, shouted the comms officer. Admiral Rhea Hayes, tall, calm, and feared by every cadet in the fleet, turned her head slowly. 4479, she repeated. "That's a colony code." "Which one?" The officer's voice shook. "Erebos 9, ma'am. The transmission is short, but it's bad. The message repeated through static. Erebos 9 under attack. Unknown alien force. Heavy losses. We will fight." Then silence. The entire room froze. Hayes stared at the screen. "How far?" "Erebos 9 is 7 jumps away. 2 days with a warp gate." "Prep the gate," she said coldly. "Wake every ship in the sector." "The fleet moves now." She turned toward the stars, her eyes hard as steel. "No one attacks humans and walks away, the sleeping giants. Wake across the solar defense network. Thousands of human warships came to life. Engines ignited. Hangar lights flickered on. In the darkness of orbit, whole fleets began to move like awakening beasts. The HMS Valiant, flagship of Admiral Hayes, was a monster of a ship, 5 kilometers long, armed with rail cannons capable of tearing moons apart. Around it, destroyers and carriers formed a glittering halo. Captain Eli Morgan stood on the Valiant's bridge. "Orders, Admiral?" Hayes didn't look away from the holomap of Erebos 9. "Simple.
We hit them so hard they remember this day for the rest of their species' history." Morgan grinned.
Finally, a real fight. From Mars to Titan, from the Belt to Luna, every human fleet received the same transmission. Erebos 9 attacked. All forces respond. Operation Iron Retribution is active. The calm before arrival. 2 days later, the human armada exited warp space near the shattered remains of Erebos 9's outer satellites. The sight froze them all. The colony was half burned. Entire cities were black scars. The atmosphere shimmered with radiation from orbital strikes. "God," whispered a young pilot. "They killed everyone." "Not everyone," said Admiral Hayes, zooming in on a faint power signal from the surface. "There's movement in the southern hemisphere. Survivors," she straightened. "All ships, weapons hot. Target alien signatures only. Let's show them who we are." The trap in the clouds in orbit above the planet, the Zelthar fleet waited like vultures. Overlord Krass, seated on his spiked command throne, watched the human ships arrive. "So the cattle brought their herds," he hissed. "Crush them," his adjutant bowed. "Their fleet is large, my lord." "Their numbers rival ours." Krass's mouth split into a grin. "Good, more trophies." The alien ships moved first, spreading into a crescent formation. Then they fired, crimson beams slicing through the void. The humans responded instantly. Space exploded into war. "The battle begins." The Valiant's hull trembled as enemy fire struck its shields. Admiral Hayes gripped the console. "Return fire," she ordered calmly. "Full power." The ship's railguns lit up, each shot tearing through kilometers of space, shattering alien armor. Fragments of Zelthar ships burned like meteors across the sky. "Direct hit on their left flank," shouted Captain Morgan. "Keep the pressure. Don't let them regroup." Hayes replied. But the aliens fought like demons. Their plasma torpedoes cut through 2 human cruisers, turning them into molten wrecks. The communication channels filled with screams, orders, static. Even then, the humans didn't break. Every pilot knew the story of Earth's past, how humanity had survived world wars, diseases, and extinction. They had lost before, but they always came back harder. This was no different. Fire over. Erebos. From the surface of the ruined planet, Captain Aidan Cross looked up and saw the night sky explode in light. Blue and red streaks danced above the clouds. The human fleet had come. He laughed, half in joy, half in disbelief. They made it. Beside him, Mara clutched her rifle, tears in her eyes. I told you they'd hear us. Overhead, a massive human battleship fired a barrage of kinetic slugs. Each slug hit with the force of a small nuke. Alien cruisers shattered like glass. The sky rained burning metal. The sound was like thunder, and for the first time since the attack began, Aidan felt hope, the turning point. But the aliens were not finished. Overlord Crass snarled. Activate the Leviathan. Beneath his flagship, a monstrous vessel unfolded, the size of a city, covered in glowing runes. Energy gathered at its core, forming a sun-bright sphere. On the human bridge, Admiral Hayes saw the readings spike. They're charging something, warned Morgan. Evade now. Too late. The Leviathan fired. A beam of pure energy ripped through space, slicing across the human formation. 3 destroyers vaporized instantly. The Valiant shook violently. Sparks flew. Shields at 40%. Hayes steadied herself. So they brought a monster. Her lips curved in a dangerous smile. Good. I've been waiting to slay one. She opened a fleet-wide channel. All ships. Target the Leviathan. Use everything you've got. For Erebos. For humanity. Every ship turned. Railguns, plasma cannons and missiles fired in perfect unison, a storm of fire so bright it turned night into day. Even in the chaos, every human fought with one shared fury. They hadn't come just to survive. They had come to remind the galaxy what happens when someone messes with humans. The Leviathan must fall, the monster in the sky. The battle for Erebos 9 had become a storm of fire and steel. Space burned. Wreckage drifted like dark snow above the wounded planet. And at the center of it all, the Leviathan, the largest ship the galaxy had ever seen. It blotted out the stars. Energy rippled across its black armor like veins of lightning. On its bridge, Overlord Crass stood tall, his red eyes glowing with savage joy. Their ships break like insects, he growled. Let them see what real power looks like. The Leviathan's cannon charged again, pulling energy from the planet's core. The ship trembled as it built enough power to split a moon in half. Target their flagship, Crass ordered. End this human defiance. The Admiral's plan on the bridge of the HMS Valiant, alarms screamed. The crew held their breath as the Leviathan's energy readings spiked. Admiral, the cannon's charging again, Captain Morgan shouted. Distance? 200,000 kilometers and closing fast. Admiral Rhea Hayes stayed calm. Then we go to them. The crew stared in disbelief. Ma'am, we can't. Yes, we can, she interrupted. We'll never outrun that beam. Our only chance is to get close enough to break their weapon from inside. She pointed at the holo display. Every ship with a functional engine. Follow us in. Focus fire on its weapon core. Bring it down or die trying. Her voice went across the fleet. Humanity has never backed down. We won't start now. The Leviathan falls. Today. And one by one, the human ships turned toward the monster. Into the fire, the fleet advanced through debris fields glowing red from heat. Alien torpedoes streaked past like comets. The Valiant's shields sparked and flared under impact. Forward thrusters to maximum, Hayes commanded. Brace for return fire. The Leviathan fired a burst from its side cannons. Entire human destroyers vanished in the explosions. But others closed the distance, launching swarms of missiles in response. Each impact tore small scars into the Leviathan's armor. Small, but enough to make it bleed light. They're hitting us back harder than expected, hissed Crass on the Leviathan's bridge. Let them come, he sneered. The closer they get, the faster they'll burn. Yet deep down, a flicker of unease crawled through him. Humans weren't retreating. They were accelerating. Aiden's return. On the planet below, Captain Aiden Cross stared up at the glowing monster in the clouds. He could feel the thunder of the orbital battle vibrating through the ground. He had rallied a few hundred survivors from the colony, engineers, miners, and soldiers. But their weapons were primitive compared to what was happening above. Then the ground shook again, and one of the Leviathan's support pylons crashed down into the desert, a giant piece of alien machinery that had fallen from orbit. Aiden's eyes narrowed. "Mara," he said, "get every fuel cell and explosive we have. If that monster powers itself from the planet, maybe we can hit it from below." "You're thinking of attacking the core?" she asked. "I'm thinking of giving the fleet a hand," he grinned. "If they're punching the head, we'll stab the heart." Boarding the beast back in orbit, the Valiant and 3 smaller ships dove straight toward the Leviathan. Alarms blared. Plasma streaks tore across their hulls. "Impact in 30 seconds, Captain Morgan yelled. "Deploy boarding pods," Hayes ordered. Hundreds of pods, metal cylinders carrying Marines, fired from the Valiant's underbelly and slammed into the Leviathan's hull like bullets. The pods burned through armor and opened. Out poured human soldiers in black exosuits, carrying rail rifles and shaped charges. They landed in corridors of dark metal lit by pulsating red veins. The air was thick and hot, almost alive. "Stay close," barked Sergeant Vega. "We're heading for the power chamber." From the shadows came alien roars. The corridors erupted in gunfire. The battle inside. The humans fought through the Leviathan like fire through dry wood. The ship was a maze of narrow tunnels and shifting walls. Zelthar soldiers came at them in waves, armored and snarling, but the humans fought harder. Sergeant Vega kicked a fallen alien aside. "They think we'll break?" she muttered. "Wrong species." Behind her, engineers set explosive charges along the walls. "Set the timers for 2 minutes," Vega ordered. The humans pressed forward, losing soldiers but never momentum. Each death only pushed the survivors harder. Finally, they reached a massive chamber filled with glowing machinery. The Leviathan's power core, the heart of the beast. Energy pulsed like thunder. Vega touched her comm. "Admiral, we're inside the core room." Hayes' voice came back, calm but urgent. "Do it, Sergeant. Make humanity proud." The strike from below. At that same moment, Aiden's ground team finished setting up their makeshift reactor bomb. The fallen alien pylon was already pulsing, connecting to the Leviathan's main power stream through the planet's crust. Aiden looked up at the storm-filled sky. "All right, Leviathan. You took our homes. Now we take yours." He hit the detonator. The explosion was silent at first, a bright blue light shooting upward like a spear. Then the ground cracked open. A shockwave raced toward the heavens. Up in orbit, the Leviathan shuddered violently. Its energy reading spiked, then fell. "Power fluctuated. Something's wrong," shouted an alien officer. Crass roared, "Stabilize the core!" But it was too late. Inside, the human explosives ignited, one after another. The power chamber became a white sun. Fall of the Leviathan. Admiral Hayes watched from the bridge of the Valiant as the massive ship began to tear itself apart. Its armor split. Flames poured from its sides. "Get us clear," she ordered. The Valiant veered away just as the Leviathan's reactor exploded. The blast was blinding. A silent, majestic burst of blue and silver that spread across the orbit like wings of light. Every human and alien ship went still, watching. The monster was gone. Its fragments fell like burning stars into the atmosphere. On the planet, Aiden looked up at the fiery sky and smiled. "Told you, Mara," he said softly. "Humans don't die easy." After the storm for a long moment, there was silence, only the crackling of burning wrecks across the battlefield. Then Admiral Hayes' voice echoed across all channels. "The Leviathan has fallen." Erebos 9 stands. "For every life they took, we take victory." Cheers erupted from what remained of the fleet. Humanity had survived the impossible once again. But far away, deep in Zelthar space, other warlords watched the transmission. One whispered, "So the humans destroyed a Leviathan." Another replied coldly, "Then we must build 2. And somewhere in the void, a new war began to stir. Echoes of revenge. The silence. After fire for the first time in days, Erebos 9 was quiet. No sirens, no bombardment, only the slow whisper of wind moving through the ruins. The ground was still warm from the Leviathan's fall. Its fragments littered the desert like dead gods, massive chunks of alien metal half buried in the sand, glowing faintly in the dark. Captain Aidan Cross walked among the wreckage, his boots crunching against glassed soil. The air smelled of ozone and burnt stone. Around him, survivors worked in silence, pulling bodies, human and alien alike, from the ashes. Beside him, Lieutenant Mara Lee said quietly, "We won, right?" Aidan looked up at the shattered sky. "We survived," he said. "That's not the same thing." The message that shouldn't exist in orbit, aboard the damaged HMS Valiant, Admiral Rhea Hayes stood on the cracked bridge. "The ship was limping but alive. Damage report?" she asked. "Half the fleet gone," replied Captain Morgan. "Shields at 20%, ammo depleted. But we hold the orbit," Hayes nodded slowly. "Then we start rebuilding." But before anyone could breathe easier, the comms officer called out, "Ma'am, we're receiving something." "From where?" "Unknown source, encrypted, but it's using human frequency codes." The crew exchanged uneasy looks. Hayes frowned. "Play it." The message crackled through static, a distorted voice, deep and cold. "You killed one of our creations." "You think that makes you safe?" "The Leviathan was only a weapon. We are the architects, and now, humanity has our attention." The voice cut off. A silence heavier than gravity filled the bridge. Morgan muttered, "What the hell was that?" Hayes's expression hardened. "Not revenge," she said softly. "Retribution." Ghosts in the sky 2 nights later. Strange readings appeared in Erebos 9's atmosphere. Energy spikes. Gravity distortions. From the ground, Aidan watched storm clouds gather, though there was no wind. The clouds didn't move. They pulsed, glowing from within, like something was forcing its way through the sky. "Admiral Hayes," Aidan said over the comms. "You seeing this?" Her voice came through the static. "Yes. We're detecting multiple warp signatures above you. But they're not Zelthar. They're something else. A lightning bolt split the heavens. Then another. Then came the sound, a deep, metallic roar that rolled across the horizon. Mara whispered, "Please tell me that's thunder." It wasn't. From the clouds descended 3 colossal shapes, ships bigger than the Leviathan, moving like shadows with wings. Their hulls shimmered with dark energy. Their weapons glowed with alien fire. The architects arrive in the command ship above. An entity stood surrounded by mist and light. Archon Vareth, leader of the architects. His body looked almost human, but his skin shifted like liquid metal, and his eyes burned silver. One of his lieutenants bowed. "The humans destroyed the Leviathan, my lord. The Zelthar beg for our help." Vareth smiled, a cold, elegant smile. "They were tools, nothing more. But these humans," he turned toward the holographic image of Erebos 9. "They have spirit, defiance, curiosity." His voice darkened. "We will study them, and when we are done, we will erase them." Aidan's discovery down on the surface. Aidan's team explored one of the fallen Leviathan fragments. It was enormous, big enough to house a city. Inside, strange blue light still pulsed in the walls, like veins still trying to pump life. "Keep your helmets on," Aidan warned. "Radiation's spiking." Mara's scanner beeped rapidly. "Wait, there's movement." "Movement?" Aidan raised his rifle. "Show me." A section of the alien wall opened like a living wound. Inside was a pod, transparent and glowing. Within it floated a figure, humanoid, pale, unconscious. Aidan stepped closer. "That's not Zelthar." "No," Mara whispered. "It looks human." The pod hissed and opened. The figure fell forward, gasping. His voice was rough but clear. "Don't shoot. I'm not your enemy." Aidan knelt beside him. "Then what the hell are you?" The stranger's silver eyes glowed faintly. "A mistake," he said. "One your enemies made long ago." The truth about the architects. Hours later, the stranger sat wrapped in a blanket inside the colony's half-broken command tent. He introduced himself simply as Kale. "I was grown in their labs," he explained, voice low. "The architects created the Leviathan and thousands like it. I was part of their test program, human DNA mixed with their technology. They wanted perfect soldiers. But something went wrong, Aiden frowned. Wrong how? They gave me a human mind, the survivors stared. Kyle continued. They fear what they don't control. That's why they erased every world that resisted. Your victory at Arevos. It woke them up. You showed them humans can destroy their work. Now they'll come in full force. Mara clenched her fists. So what do we do? Kale's silver eyes reflected the flicker of the fire. You fight like humans always have. You adapt. You endure. And you hit them where they don't expect. The new Alliance Admiral Hayes met Kale through a secure transmission link. Even through static, his presence felt alien. Calm, powerful, haunted. You claim to know their weaknesses, Hayes said. I do, Kale replied. The architects depend on resonance fields to control their ships. Disable those fields and they lose command. But you'll need something stronger than your current weapons. Then help us build it. Kyle smiled faintly. You're asking me to betray my creators. I'm asking you to choose your species, Hayes replied. There was a long silence. Then Kale nodded. Very well, I'll help. But understand this. Once you strike them, they will never stop coming. Hayes's eyes hardened. Neither will we. The whisper of war night returned to Arevos 9. The surviving humans watched from the deserts as streaks of light appeared in the sky, the architect's ships moving into new positions. Aiden stood beside Mara, holding his rifle like an old friend. They're coming again, he said quietly. Mara nodded. Then we hit first. He looked toward the horizon where Kale's team worked inside the wreckage, building something new. A weapon that hummed with alien energy and human engineering. Above them, the clouds glowed red. The architect's fleet began to descend. Aiden smirked faintly. Round 2, huh? Let's show them what humans do after a win. Cliffhanger from his throne aboard the architect flagship, Archon Vareth watched the human signal flare on his screen. He leaned forward, smiling coldly. They learn fast, he murmured. Good. It will make their extinction more interesting. Back on Arevos 9, the ground shook as the first alien bombardment began again. Brighter, louder, deadlier. But this time, humanity wasn't just defending. They were waiting, and deep in the ruins, a new light began to rise. The weapon Kale called Project Dawnfire. The second war for Arevos had begun. Project Dawnfire. The weapon in the wreckage, the ruins of Arevos 9 glowed faintly under a blood-red dawn. Smoke drifted across the shattered plains, and in the middle of it all, humans worked like ghosts. Inside a massive crater, engineers, soldiers, and ex-miners labored day and night around a strange machine, half alien, half human. Its surface shimmered with blue light, pulsing like a living heart. They called it Project Dawnfire. At its core stood Kale, the silver-eyed hybrid who once served the architects. He moved with mechanical precision, his hands blurring as he adjusted glowing circuits. It's not just a weapon, he said softly. It's a mirror. It reflects what you are. Captain Aiden Cross stood nearby, arms crossed. And what are we, Kyle? Kale glanced up. A species that refuses to die. The gathering storm above the planet, the architect fleet hovered like black clouds blotting out the sun. Dozens of colossal ships formed a ring around Arevos 9. From their command vessel, Archon Vareth watched the planet through cold silver eyes. Status? He demanded. Energy signatures detected below, replied a lieutenant. Something powerful, hybrid in nature. Vareth's expression darkened. The human abomination, he said. He dares to use our science against us. He turned to his fleet. Begin the cleansing. Erase everything on the surface. Moments later, the skies opened. Columns of plasma light rained down, carving craters across the planet. Whole mountain ranges split apart, but the humans didn't run. They kept building. The shield of Hope Deep beneath the crater, the Dawnfire's outer shell hummed. It projected a faint energy barrier, shimmering like liquid glass. A plasma strike hit it, and stopped, frozen midair, dissolving into harmless light. Cheers erupted through the human camp. It works, shouted Mara Lee. Kale nodded, though his tone stayed grim. For now? It feeds on the same energy as their weapons. But once it activates fully, there will be no second chances. Admiral Rhea Hayes, coordinating from orbit, watched the readings on her console. "Kyle, how soon until it's ready?" 30 minutes, he answered. "But when it fires, everything within 50 miles will be vaporized, including us." Hayes didn't flinch. "Then make it count." The Architects strike from orbit. The first wave of Architect drones descended, sleek machines shaped like razors, slicing through clouds as they fell. Aiden looked up. "Here they come!" The ground shuddered as hundreds of drones landed across the desert, opening like mechanical flowers to release metallic soldiers armed with energy blades. "Hold the line!" Aiden roared. Human troops fired plasma rifles, railguns, even modified mining lasers. The air became a storm of color: red beams, blue shields, orange explosions. The drones advanced in silence, methodical and endless. But humans were faster, messier, unpredictable. They fought like chaos itself. When a drone lunged at Mara, Aiden tackled it, jamming a blade under its armor and tearing out glowing wires. Sparks burst over them. "Told you," he grunted. "Humans bite back." Kyle's burden inside the crater, Kyle worked furiously. His synthetic veins glowed as he linked himself directly to the Dawnfire's core. "I can't stabilize it alone," he gasped. "You're burning up," shouted an engineer. Kyle's voice echoed with static. "The Architects designed me to survive destruction. Let me use it." Admiral Hayes' voice came through the comm. "Kyle, we're detecting massive power buildup."
"If that thing overloads," Kyle interrupted, his voice calm.
"It has to. Only something born from both human and Architect can command this much power." Then, almost to himself, he whispered, "They made me their weapon. Now I'll be yours." Fire and blood outside, Aiden and his squad were running out of ammo. The ground was littered with wreckage, human and machine. "Fall back to the crater," Aiden yelled. "Protect the core!" A swarm of drones chased them. Explosions tore through the sand. Mara stumbled, a beam grazing her shoulder. Aiden caught her, dragging her behind a broken wall. "Still with me?" he asked. She grimaced. "Always." From above, the Architect fleet began to charge their main weapons. Energy built like a growing sun. Vareth watched with satisfaction. "End them." But below, the Dawnfire was ready. Kyle opened his eyes, now glowing brighter than the sun itself. "It's time." The birth of Dawnfire, the ground split. The crater filled with blinding white light. Kyle screamed, part human pain, part machine resonance, as the Dawnfire activated. Waves of energy surged outward, tearing through the invading drones. They disintegrated mid-air, turning into dust and light. The pulse climbed higher, reaching the Architect fleet. The first ship it touched folded inward like paper, then exploded in a ring of blue fire. One by one, the others followed, their shields melting away like ice. Admiral Hayes watched from orbit, speechless. "By God!" On the ground, Aiden shielded his eyes as the blast passed over them. For a moment, everything was light. Then silence, the skies cleared. The alien fleet was gone. Only faint embers drifted down like falling stars. The cost of victory. When the light faded, the crater was empty. No Kale, no machine. Only a glassed pit where the Dawnfire had stood. Mara whispered, "He's gone." Aiden nodded slowly. He did what he said. "He burned bright enough for all of us." Admiral Hayes' voice came over the comm. "The Architect fleet is destroyed. Erevos is safe, for now." Aiden looked at the horizon, where dawn broke clean and quiet. "No," he said softly. "Not safe, just breathing. The echo that remains far away." In the deep black between galaxies, a signal flickered. Faint, ancient. Alive, it carried one line of code. "Dawnfire active. Stage 2 awaiting trigger." On a dark world. Archon Vareth stood in front of the message, his silver eyes narrowing. "So, the weapon survived," he smiled, cold and patient. "Then so will I." The awakening signal. The light that wouldn't die. A week after the destruction of the Architect fleet, Erevos 9 was quiet again. Too quiet. The sky was blue now, painfully blue, as if trying to erase the memory of war. Yet the survivors couldn't forget. The ground still shimmered with glass, and every night the air still smelled faintly of burnt metal. Captain Aidan Cross walked through the ruins of the Dawnfire crater. The sand there glowed faintly, like a sleeping ember that refused to cool. He knelt and touched the ground, warm, still alive somehow. "Mara," he called, "get the sensors." "Something's humming down here." She hurried over with a handheld scanner. The screen flickered, static, then a single line of text. "Dawnfire core resonating. Unknown energy source detected." Aidan frowned. "I thought it was gone." Mara looked up at him. "Maybe it doesn't know how to die." Ghost frequencies high above the planet, the HMS Valiant drifted in silent orbit. Engineers worked around the clock to rebuild the wounded flagship. Admiral Rhea Hayes stood alone on the bridge, watching the starfield beyond the viewport. She had seen victory before, but never one that felt this uneasy. Her comms officer interrupted her thoughts. "Admiral, you should see this." On the central screen, faint signals were appearing, rhythmic, repeating pulses coming from deep space. "Could be echoes from the Dawnfire blast," said the officer. Hayes squinted. "No, that pattern's deliberate. It's talking." The pulses shifted, forming an encoded message in Old Earth binary. Slowly, the computer translated it. "I am awake." Hayes's eyes widened. "Kyle," she whispered. The voice in the static. That night, as the Valiant orbited over the dark side of Erebos 9, the ship's lights dimmed. Screens flickered. A low hum filled the corridors, then a voice calm and deep echoed through every comm system. "Don't be afraid." "I am not gone." Crew members froze. Some shouted, others prayed. Hayes stepped forward. "Identify yourself." "You called it Project Dawnfire," the voice replied. "It remembers me." "I remember you, Kyle," Hayes said again. "Yes, and no. The Dawnfire was built to reflect its creator. When I merged with it, we became something else. Something between human and architect. Something awake." The voice faded briefly, replaced by static. Then came the final line, sharp and clear. "They are coming. And this time they won't send ships. They'll send worlds. The architect's revenge far beyond the Milky Way? In the hollow dark, where stars flicker and die. The architect's citadel stirred. Archon Vareth, still scarred from the Dawnfire blast, watched holograms of destroyed fleets. His silver eyes burned colder than ever. "The humans unleashed something they don't understand," he told his war council. "It echoes across subspace, a pulse of creation and defiance." He extended his hand toward a massive, glowing construct, an artificial planet covered in living metal. "We built the Leviathan to test them. Now we release the world forges." The floor shook as enormous engines ignited under the planet. Mountains shifted. Oceans boiled. The world itself began to move, a weapon the size of a moon, heading for human space. Vareth smiled. "Let them see what gods look like." The pulse spreads back on Erebos. Strange things began to happen. Machines that had been destroyed in the war suddenly powered up again. Dead drones twitched. Shattered human ships blinked with new life. Mara ran toward Aidan holding her scanner. "It's the Dawnfire pulse. It's reawakening tech across the planet, human and alien." Aidan looked toward the crater. Beams of blue light were shooting into the sky, steady and rhythmic. "It's broadcasting something," he said. "Maybe a warning, or a call." Then a familiar voice echoed faintly from the comm in his hand. "Kyles, you must leave Erebos. They will follow the signal. But I need time. To prepare. Prepare for what?" Aidan demanded. "For the awakening." The split decision Admiral Hayes convened an emergency council aboard the Valiant. "We can't ignore this. That signal could attract every hostile race within 100 light years." Aidan appeared on the hollow screen. "With respect, Admiral, if Kale's alive, he might be the only one who understands what's coming." Hayes paced slowly. "Then we retrieve him. But if this turns out to be a trap," Mara cut in. "He saved us once. We owe him a chance." Hayes looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. "Fine. Prepare a retrieval team. We leave in 1 hour." As the officers hurried to their posts, the stars outside flickered, not from malfunction, but from something vast moving in the dark. Inside the core, Aidan and Mara led a dropship down into the crater. The sand parted like liquid as they descended, revealing a hidden tunnel spiraling deep underground. At the end of it was a glowing chamber, the Dawnfire core reborn. Blue light cascaded across crystal walls, and in the center floated Kale, his body half light, half shadow. He opened his eyes slowly. "Aiden," he said softly. "You shouldn't have come." "We came to bring you home," Aiden replied. Kale smiled faintly. "Home? I don't belong to either world now. But I can still protect one of them." The ground shook. Cracks raced up the chamber walls. "What's happening?" Mara shouted. Kyle's form began to pulse. "They found me! Go now!" The sky opens as the dropship lifted off. The clouds tore apart above Erebos. Through them descended a sight no human had ever seen. A world forge, a moving planet glowing red and black, its surface alive with machinery and fire. It filled the entire horizon. Its gravity pulled at the oceans. Its weapons hummed like the heartbeat of a god. Admiral Hayes stared from orbit. "That's not a ship. That's a world." Kale's voice came through every frequency. "Get your people out of the system. The Dawnfire will hold them, for now. But what about you?" Hayes demanded. "This isn't about me anymore. It's about what you'll become." Cliffhanger. The Dawnfire awakens. The World Forge fired its first beam, a red line of death that could crack planets. Kale raised his arms. The ground beneath Erebos glowed white-hot. A second beam, blue, pure and blinding, erupted from the planet's surface to meet it. The two energies collided between worlds, twisting the sky into fire and lightning. Space itself trembled. From every human ship, sensors went dark. For one heartbeat, all comms filled with a single phrase, Kale's final transmission. "The Dawnfire is awake." Then everything went white. The War of Worlds, when the sky broke. No one had ever seen light like that before. The heavens split open, half crimson from the World Forge, half blue from the Dawnfire's pulse. Every human ship, every alien sensor, every mind that looked up into the storm saw it. Two worlds fighting in the same sky. The red beam from the World Forge burned like a god's sword, cutting through clouds and mountains. The blue beam from Erebos 9 answered with pure fury. The soundless scream of human defiance turned into light. Between them, reality bent. Oceans rose into the air. The stars flickered and died. And at the heart of it stood Kale, suspended in energy, half man, half machine, holding back the impossible. The last transmission, on the orbiting HMS Valiant, alarms wailed. Consoles sparked. Crew members shouted over each other as the ship struggled to stay intact. "Admiral Hayes!" cried the comms officer. "We're losing control of the magnetic fields." "Keep it steady!" Hayes barked, gripping the railing. "What about Kale's signal?" "It's everywhere, ma'am. Bleeding through every frequency, even gravity waves." Hayes stared at the main screen. Kale's face flickered across it. Pale, glowing, calm. "Admiral," he said, "I'm holding them for now. But the World Forge is adapting. It learns. It always learns. What can we do?" she asked. "Run," Kale said softly. "And remember me." Not as a weapon, but as a warning. Then his image dissolved into static. Humanity's Counter-Strike Captain Aiden Cross wasn't the running type. Down on Erebos 9, the ground was splitting open, flames bursting from the cracks, but he still barked orders. "Load the remaining missiles," he shouted. "Target the World Forge's vent systems. Aim for the core tunnels." Mara looked at him in disbelief. "That thing's the size of a moon." "We can't kill it!" "No," Aiden said, locking the firing sequence. "But we can hurt it." The ground batteries roared to life. Columns of smoke shot upward as missiles left their silos, slicing into the sky like angry comets. One by one, they struck the World Forge's surface, and for the first time, the monster bled fire. Mara grinned fiercely. "You made it bleed," Aiden smirked. "Told you. Humans bite back." The heart of the forge inside the World Forge, Archon Vareth watched the explosions ripple across his artificial planet. "Primitive," he hissed, "but effective." He extended a hand into a control orb made of liquid metal. The ship responded like a living creature, sealing wounds and firing energy lances toward the planet. Vareth's lieutenant hesitated. "The Dawnfire's core is resisting. The hybrid still fights." "Then let him watch," Vareth said coldly. "Let him see his creation burn." Kale's decision, in the blue heart of Erebos 9. Kale's consciousness stretched across networks, sensors, and energy fields. He saw everything, the dying humans, the raging planet above, the trembling universe between. He spoke to no one, but the Dawnfire heard him. You were made to destroy. But I give you something better, purpose, the core pulsed. Blue turned white. Kale began to dissolve into light. Mara's voice crackled faintly over the comms. Kale, what are you doing? Finishing it, he said gently. Tell Aiden. Tell him humans taught me what it means to fight for something. Dawnfire ascends. The crater erupted with light. Not violent, not angry, but alive. A second sphere rose from the planet, forged of energy and memory, the Dawnfire reborn, carrying Kale's essence. It climbed through the sky, faster than any ship. Trailing fire that painted the horizon gold, Admiral Hayes whispered, Dear God. The Dawnfire struck the world forge. For a heartbeat, both worlds froze, red against blue. Then came the silence, the kind that comes before creation, and then everything exploded. The afterlight. When the light faded, the stars returned. Where the world forge had been, there was only debris, glowing fragments drifting in the void. The Dawnfire was gone too, only dust, and silence, and peace. On Erebos 9, Aiden opened his eyes to find Mara beside him, her face streaked with soot. Still alive? She croaked. He smiled weakly. Mostly. Above them, the dawn broke, calm, pure, beautiful. The first clean sunrise since the war began. Admiral Hayes' voice came over the comm. Confirmed? The world forge is destroyed. Humanity is still here. For a long time no one spoke. Then Aiden whispered. Kale did it. Mara nodded. No, we did. All of us. 1 year later, a memorial stood on the plains where the Dawnfire once burned. It wasn't made of metal or stone, just a glass pillar that shimmered in the wind. At its base were carved simple words, for Kyle, proof that even what's made to destroy can choose to protect. Children played nearby. Farmers rebuilt homes. The air was clean again. Aiden stood there quietly, hands in his pockets, Rex the dog sitting by his side. Mara joined him, smiling faintly. Think he's still out there? She asked. Aiden looked up at the night sky where one star flickered brighter than the rest. Yeah, he said softly. Watching, waiting, just in case we forget what we're capable of. Epilogue. The human legacy far across the galaxy, hidden deep inside a nebula. Sensors flickered, a faint voice whispered through the static. Kyle's voice. The architects built me to destroy humanity. But I learned something they never could. His tone changed. Fierce, proud, alive. You can't destroy what refuses to die. You can't erase what keeps rebuilding. You can't silence a species that looks at gods and says, "Try me." Then the signal faded into the stars. The war was over. But the legend of humans, the species that fought gods and won, had just begun. If you enjoyed this video, like this video, subscribing, and clicking the bell icon to stay updated with fresh content every day.